The living room was silent, uncomfortably so. No TV, no small talk, just tension thick in the air. Everyone already knew what had happened, everyone except me. My parents sat stiff on the couch, avoiding each other's eyes, while my sibling refused to look at me at all. I could feel it in my chest. Something was wrong. They were waiting for a reaction, screaming, tears, a complete breakdown. But it never came. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask a single question. I simply sat there and smiled. That smile unsettled them more than any outburst ever could. Because in that moment, they realized something. They thought I'd stay quiet. They had no idea my silence would ruin everything. I've always been the quiet one, the one who learned to observe instead of interrupt, to endure instead of complain. I built my life on my own terms, independent and self-made, never depending on family, money or favors to get by. While others leaned on support, I leaned on discipline. While they were praised for the smallest achievements, I was expected to understand, to adjust, to give more. In our family, I became the easy one, the one who didn't ask for much, the one who stepped back so others could step forward. When they needed help, I was there. When they needed sacrifices, I made them without hesitation. And slowly, without realizing it, my generosity turned into invisibility. I watched as others took freely while I gave quietly, believing that patience would eventually be rewarded. I thought being calm meant being strong. I thought understanding meant being valued. But life has a way of teaching hard lessons to those who stay silent too long. I learned early that staying quiet kept the peace. But it cost me more than I realized. I didn't find out the way you'd expect. No one sat me down. No one explained. I discovered it by accident, through a casual comment that didn't seem important to anyone else. A single sentence that made my stomach drop. The item they sold wasn't just valuable, it was priceless to me. Not because of money, but because of what it carried. Memories, legacy, love that couldn't be replaced. It was a piece of our family's history. Something that had survived years of change and loss. Something I believe was safe. They sold it behind my back. No discussion. No warning. Just a decision made without me. As if my feelings didn't exist. The money didn't go toward an emergency or a shared need. It went to things they wanted. Things they justified as necessary. When I finally confronted them, there was no apology, no regret. Just explanations that sounded rehearsed, almost defensive. They spoke as if they'd done nothing wrong. As if the emotional weight of what they'd taken didn't matter. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about what was sold. It was about how little my voice had ever mattered. They were ready for it. I could see it in their faces. They expected me to explode, to shout, to accuse them of betrayal. They braced themselves for tears, for anger, for a reaction they could dismiss as emotional. When I didn't give it to them, they filled the silence themselves. Accusations came first, sharp and defensive. Then the guilt-tripping followed, carefully layered and familiar. You're overreacting. It wasn't that serious. It's already done. What do you want us to do now? I said nothing. I listened. I let every word fall into place, each excuse revealing more than they realized. I noticed how quickly blame shifted, how responsibility dissolved into justification. They talked as if the damage was temporary, as if feelings could be erased the same way the item had been sold. Inside, something changed. Not anger, clarity. I memorized every sentence, every contradiction, every lie wrapped in reason. They mistook my silence for acceptance, for defeat. They thought staying calm meant staying powerless. But in that moment, I realized they never thought I'd fight back. Once I stopped reacting, I started seeing things clearly. Patterns I had ignored for years suddenly connected. This wasn't the first time my needs had been dismissed, or my trust taken for granted. It was just the biggest betrayal so far. Moments from the past replayed in my mind, each one fitting into place like pieces of a puzzle I had refused to finish. I began noticing inconsistencies in their stories, small details that didn't match, explanations that shifted depending on who was speaking. I followed the money trail quietly, paying attention to who benefited most and who avoided questions. The truth wasn't hidden very well, it had just never been challenged. They assumed my silence meant I had accepted what they'd done, that I was too tired to hurt or too weak to respond. But they were wrong. I wasn't staying quiet because I was afraid. I was staying quiet because I was thinking, watching, preparing. Every lie they told gave me more clarity. Every justification showed me exactly where I stood in their world. Silence isn't surrender. It's preparation. When the moment came, I didn't storm in with accusations or demands. I asked calm questions, simple ones that didn't sound threatening at all. Questions they assumed were harmless. One by one, I placed facts on the table, never all at once, never emotionally, just enough truth to make the room uneasy. At first, they were confident, smiling, certain they were still in control. But then their answers started to change. Details didn't line up. Voices tightened. Excuses began to overlap, each one contradicting the last. The confidence they'd worn so comfortably began to crack under its own weight. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I let them talk themselves into corners they couldn't escape. The more they spoke, the clearer everything became. What they had done, why they had done it, and how little they'd expected to be questioned. The shift was undeniable. Where there had once been certainty, there was now panic. Where there had been authority, there was hesitation. And all of it happened without me ever raising my voice. I didn't need revenge. The truth did the damage for me. Once the truth was out, everything unraveled quickly. The room filled with nervous movement, people talking over each other. Explanations spilling out too fast to make sense. My family scrambled to soften the damage, suddenly aware of what they'd exposed. Guilt tactics followed, just like I knew they would. Voices dropped. Expressions shifted. It wasn't meant like that. You're misunderstanding us. We did what we thought was best, but it was too late. Those words no longer had power over me. I could hear the panic behind them, the realization that control had slipped from their hands. The justification sounded hollow now, stripped of authority by the truth they couldn't undo. That was the moment I set my boundaries, calmly, clearly, no anger, no threats, just limits that would no longer be crossed. Trust, once broken so easily, was gone, and I wasn't going to pretend otherwise. The dynamic had changed, permanently. They felt it, I felt it. The power had shifted, not through confrontation, but through clarity. Calm beats chaos. Respect beats entitlement. I didn't stay to argue. I didn't wait for apologies that would never feel sincere. I walked away peacefully, carrying a calm I hadn't felt in a long time. There was no shouting, no dramatic exit, no final words meant to wound. Just clarity. For so long, I had confused patience with loyalty, silence with strength. But in that moment, I understood the difference. Choosing myself didn't mean I was cruel or unforgiving. It meant I was finally honest about what I deserved: respect, boundaries, peace. As I stepped away, I felt lighter. Not because the betrayal no longer hurt, but because it no longer controlled me. I wasn't leaving in defeat. I was leaving with dignity, aware of my worth and unwilling to compromise it again. For the first time, I chose myself. If your family betrayed you like this, would you stay silent or speak up? Think carefully, there's no right answer. Some would keep quiet, protect themselves. Others would confront, demand justice. What would you do in my place? Drop your answer in the comments below.